All right, we're gonna do a little VOD review of Anton's game against Tommaso in Copenhagen at the Calling. It's DIO. Anton is on DIO and Tommaso is on Slippy. Anton asked me to review his game, some of his decisions and stuff. Or maybe I volunteered to do it, not sure anymore, but anyhow, here we go. Slippy is a tough matchup for DIO, obviously, with the disruption and also the ability to maybe fatigue. Can be quite hard for DIO. On the other hand, if you pressure Slippy and they have to block with cards, then they cannot really effectively block you out the whole game. So if you get like a power turn, a spike turn, then a lot of times you can get there. But again, it's very hard, and Tommaso is a super skilled player, as is Anton for sure. So looking at his matchup spread, he already played 5 Assassins, 1 against 2 Marios and 2 Slippys. So at least confirming what I think, that the matchup is obviously hard, but it's winnable. So you have to have some experience. Obviously he faced a lot more Assassins than he should probably like. Okay, see how that goes. Symbiosis shot is obviously weapon of choice. So Anton is playing the Tinkerings in the hands and the Adaptive Plating in the food slot, heat slot, food slot, whatever. Yeah. And Tommaso has like the best layout of equipment you can have, the most blocking, and also Belts of Justice, which you can try to play around Sasheo. So starting hand shows Null Time Zone, which is obviously not a great card in the matchup. But he has a Spark of Genius going for Tackle Pounder, which is a very, very good start for sure. Tommaso cannot filter his hand, and Anton has a Pounder. Puts a counter on his weapon and has an arsenal as well. There's a little bit of a slip up here. He does not check the top of his deck again, so fortunately for him it was not an item anyway, so he could have played that item. Okay, next hand has another Pounder, and Tommaso starts with Bonds of Agony, which already is like the worst thing that can happen, but looking at his hand, it's maybe not. So we have the Pounder as a pitch card. I think the 0 to 60 is blue. It's a bit hard to see. You can see Anton playing like very, very much like Big Fridge with Tinkerings and Adaptive Plating. I was playing Adaptive Plating in the hands and Heavy Industry Gear Shift in the boot slot, which I like I can block with 2 cards, with a card and the chest and the boots as 6 power thing. And I can still do the Cerebellum Processor high roll with the extra action point from the boots, so which I think is quite important in a matchup, that you get like a power turn to pressure the Slippy and then keep the pressure on. Yeah, usually I'd hope it's not Bonds. He thinks a lot about it. I mean, there's not much that can happen. They take the zipper hits. Okay, that's annoying. They take the passive harpoon. Okay, also not great. But on the other hand, they would have to use all their equipment and stuff. So very good decision by Anton here to not react with this. So now we have a Command and Conquer, which is obviously perfect for the Crown of Providence. We're gonna check what's on top of the deck. He's checking again. And still tinkering about the decision. So So I think he dodged a bullet in his very first turn of the game. That could have ended up a lot worse. Alright. So we can go pressure now. Okay, so yeah, 5 cards. So the 0 to 60 is red as well, I think. So depending on what the top card is, that decides how the turn will go. This is 1.5 speed, but still already takes it. Tickler core is really great. Taking some value for the next turn, so but there's not gonna be boom grenade this turn. Bit of a sequencing, thinking about the super hit and then deciding to go with the throttle. This is 8 go again. That's a lot of damage. So he still has Pulse Wave, Super Hit, and I think blue 0 to 60. So we'll see how he's gonna play the rest of the turn. Took quite some time on the first blocks of the game, so taking 8, this is a lot. Then, yeah, it was a blue 0 to 60, going for the super hit. That takes 2 damage. And then I think Pulse Wave, yes, there we go. So it's take up the mantle he cannot take. And then there's Codex and Black Widow. So if they take the Codex, then the turn would be something like Mark. Yes, Mark and take up the mantle. So this is gonna activate bonds for sure, unless they have a stealth attack in arsenal. Honestly, I think I take the Mark just to make sure to, if they do not have the stealth attack in arsenal, then they don't really have a good turn. What are they gonna do? I mean, like pitching the daggering, and so that's not, if they do not have the stealth attack in arsenal, then that would be really good. So Anton decides to take the Codex, and you can see Tommaso giving the boots, because he's planning on using them in his next turn. And then we have a symbiosis shot coming in for 2. Overall, pretty good turn, but now it's quite scary because he already knows what's gonna happen. In a way. Yeah. It's all pretty face up here. So now we have a really, really bad hand. Having 3 items, so and the Spark of Genius, so he cannot block. If he's gonna get bonds, then either all the Cerebellum is gonna get removed or most of the boom grenades. I suppose. So he's checking. Yes, bonds is there. So pretty bad hand, because honestly, the hand could have played really well with just not that many cards. With the Tickler Core and the Pounder in play, so even if it's just like a 1 card attack, it's like 7 into 2 into whatever, maybe finding an item. So, okay, let's think about it. Let's take up the mantle. So this should be 6. Yeah, 7. 7 on the bonds. Yeah. And maybe also, like, it could have been a decision to block with the Spark of Genius. Maybe let's pause it there for a second. Block with the Spark of Genius and the Tinkerings and the Tickler. But then, what's the turn? Turn would be like play the Cerebellum, crank it, play the Tickler Pounder, and Arsenal the Boom Grenade. Honestly, not the worst turn. Again, it was quite face up what's gonna happen. The only thing we don't know is what is in the arsenal of Tommaso and what is on top of Anton's deck. Definitely a tough spot. So he got an item on top. I think we're gonna stop there for a second as well, which is the backup protocol, which unlocks the hand quite a bit. Honestly, I mean, sure, if the arsenal is another pump spell, then you get blown out, obviously. But if you have them on a pump spell in arsenal, then you would have taken the mark for sure. So, I mean, maybe they think now it's a pump spell because, I don't know. So it's tough blocking for 7, then maybe block gets blown out anyway. But yeah, at least he can kind of salvage his turn, for sure. So Tommaso now is gonna think. Yeah, that's the tough part. If the Slippy player, they find bonds early, then so they can now play bonds 2 turns in a row. I mean, in this case, it kind of has to be. It should be the Cerebellums, because they cannot really spark for something super useful. They already have a Tickler Core, so they can only spark for another one, which doesn't help that much. And losing all the Cerebellums is obviously super tough. Yeah, so let's gonna look at the deck a little bit more. Okay, so we have the Pounder. Getting the backup protocol. So now his turn is gonna be like getting something back, maybe the Throttle, and then play the Throttle into Spark of Genius, and the arsenal was a Leave No Witnesses. So I'm not sure why Tommaso would play it here even. I mean, okay, it's more damage, but it's also disruption, and also he knows the hand of Anton. He has Spark of Genius, and Spark of Genius draws a card, and there's a lot of lines that actually like would have him end up the turn with an arsenal. So basically I think this is like, sure, it's just vanilla 4 damage. I mean, sure, if it's a red, they get a silver, but they can obviously get that silver later anyway as well. So also not super sure why that's the turn. And Anton is blocking this fully. From my point of view, also quite questionable, but also depends on what is at the top of his deck, which we don't know. Maybe if it's another item, then makes sense. Protect that. Yeah, that's it. Okay. And it is another item. It's a Boom Grenade. Makes sense. Probably not cranking that. Yep. And then getting back to Throttle. And playing the Spark of Genius. And I think sparking for backup protocol, most likely. The upside from the cerebellums no longer in the deck is that Tommaso will probably not draw a card from Balance of Justice. It's quite unlikely at this point. So he's giving 3 cards. No, he's giving 2 cards and the equipment, and then it's a question, okay, sparking, you could potentially Arsenal Spark, but I think that's the better choice to just go for it. Yeah, if they find a blue, they can actually like get an attack back, but they will not trigger the boom grenade anyway. Yeah, so he's thinking between the null time zones, which doesn't do much at this point, I think. Yep. So Anton has, this is like the chance to get back better into this game. He got the tackle core, he still has a pounder, and he has a lot of resources and also can get some extra cards, so you can get an arsenal, so you can go into his turn with 5 cards, drawing from the spark. He cranked the backup protocol, so he can attack Took, taking the damage. Yeah, that's a bit questionable because you kind of have to sacrifice the protocol in Tommaso's turn, which is usually, I think, should be fine. But nope. And we have a bond again. Super annoying. His turn 3 of the game, and it is the 3rd bond's turn. This is really not how you would imagine this. At least not from the dash side. So Anton had to think about the bonds every single turn of this game. Remi, Schluss. Hey. So this time he's blocking it for quite a bit. Blocking it for 7 and getting an attack back. Problem is, like, Tommaso blocked with 2 cards and then sent back 1 card and got 2 cards from Anton again. It's tough. Because at this point I think I kind of have to resolve a max V to actually have a chance in this game. Let's see what this can fetch. Getting super hit back. Banishing a Fast and Furious, putting the trigger on his deck, looking at the top of his deck, I mean, nothing better gonna come his way than the boom grenade. So, this 5 go again. Obviously a high incentive for Tommaso to just block this out, but he's thinking about how to do this. Oh, there's gone. 5 is a bit awkward, but he still got the balance of justice. So he's thinking, okay, he's not gonna block that out. Okay, taking the damage here. He wants to keep the rest of his cards. So we're having some Tickle Core because he knows the next card is Zipper Hit. There you go. So now we're having some damage presented here. Taking another 5. And because he knows this, so probably like some sequencing here, playing the one from hand first and then the one from arsenal, but yeah. I mean, giving some block. So Tommaso is at 9 here, Anton at 23. And we have an infect. Just counting the deck. Anton going to the arsenal. I mean, this looks like the poster child of a game that would scream to ban take up the mental bonds of agony. It's like every turn of the game we're having bonds. There you go. Flick that knife. And taking up the mantle. Getting bonds, getting resistance. And here we go again. It's turn 4 and we had Bonds of Agony played or like attacking on all 4 turns of Tommaso's game. So Anton hedged and blocked this the 0 to 60 with the 2 copies in his hand just to not get blown out. He obviously has Tommaso on the nuts every turn and Tommaso delivers. Yeah, so we didn't getting him down to 15. Showing the hand. And then counting some stuff. Probably the 0 to 60s. That's it. A lot of zipper hits there. The 2 red ones from the previous turn. And checking again. Checking the banish for sure. Also some 0 to 60s here. And yeah, but it's just like he's the better card, better arsenal for sure. I think there's a couple boom grenades left in the deck. So Anton shuffling. Deck looks quite small, but it's alright. I think that's not the biggest problem here. So we've got here something. Pro is just gonna send in the T-bone and the symbiosis shot. We're also checking. There's a lot of checking graveyard banish and stuff going on. And it's only turn 4 of the game, so still the game took some time to go. Yeah, so the Max V not very likely to resolve. So this is has to be like some boom grenade finds from the top. And maybe Tommaso not having an amazing turn. But at this point it's tough because he can go to his turn with 3 cards. Here he still has the balance and the flick knives. I mean, he doesn't have a dagger, but there you go. They found the dagger. And it's not a bronze turn, at least. Doesn't appear like one. So we're having 2 nighttime zones in this hand. Looks kind of cursed. It's not the card you want to see here. At this point you just hope that the top of the deck is not a red card. But from Anton thinking that much about it, it looks like it could be one. These are like the small things in the short games that matter so much. So you have something else on top, it's just vanilla damage. So it's 9, coming down to 6. The vanishing, it's a red. So, and Tommaso ripping the Leave No Witnesses from the top. I mean, masterfully getting the block here for 4. Yeah. So I think like the game is rather close. I think Tommaso's up like a bunch, but he can still lose it. But like Anton was a bit unlucky in spots, and Tommaso had like really good hands for most of the game. So going for an all-time zone, thinking what's it gonna be? Probably not bonds. So grabbing a pen, so we're gonna know for sure in a second. Something like sink below, I guess. It is sink below. Great. So signing the arsenal now. No. So I think the arsenal is the other yellow zipper hit. Again, the second time that Anton is like giving away like a little bit of information for free. So Tommaso knows what's coming his way, but also it's a breakpoint, and the way to lose this game, it is boom grenade from the top for sure. Now they're checking for the boom grenades. There's a couple left. They're sure. Looks like Anton is not playing any heists, so that's another card that he might help blowing out the game, but it's not the case here. Probably maybe just blocking this out or just blocking 3. I mean, worst case, they go to 3. It's not great. Yeah, taking 1. I think that's fine. And then I think you're gonna pause here. Oh yeah, we're doing take a foundry heart, which is the correct decision at this point. You have to go fish for stuff. Yeah. Because the game is not gonna take much longer. And then you'd probably send the zipper here from Arsenal again. And somebody also shot, but it's not looking good. So I'm thinking slide as a mechanologist. Tough one. I mean, he hasn't used DIO, so, and he doesn't have an item on top, so he'd have to. Oh, he's thought about getting the core here. Okay. So what's the next card? I don't know it. Core is good because it's basically like giving you another card to block at this point of the game. And then the question Is he trying to like do something more in the next turn or not? I don't know what the top is, so it looks like it's an attack. That's good. So he can either send like the attack and the symbiosis shot. I think the attack would have to get a block, and I think that's an important part here in the game. So he got the nighttime zone and he didn't send a super hit, and if Tommaso has the sink below, he don't have to play it this turn, and he can just put it in arsenal, and then he got it in his next turn. And then nighttime zone is basically like void, because even if they draw a sink below in the next turn, if they have it now, then they can just put it, just sink the other one. So that's a bit of a... And they also, like, if they send super hit, they have to give another card here, kinda. They can't take that much damage if they take the cut, or at least some more equipment, so I don't know. I think that would have made sense. Okay, so we have Core, which is useless, unfortunately, and a couple cheap attacks. So, yeah, we're gonna go block a bit. But how much is the question? It's probably 3 is the answer. Let's find out. Giving a 0 cost, like the T-Bone, I guess. Let's checking again. And I think I saw that Tommaso has drawn the sink below in his previous hand, so that's a bit unfortunate. Probably because then he would have needed to block with another card. You can see the game took like a long time. It's only 6 turns, so both players know that it's not gonna take that much longer, and so there's more thinking. So he got the Codex, getting the Leave No Witnesses, discarding the sink below, and then there's like a lot of punishment going on here. The Arsenal is an attack, we know that. I think I peeked the Boom Grenade from the top. So the biggest downside is here. He got the Frailty, which nullifies the Arsenal attack a little bit, but also the Symbiosis shot, which is really an issue. So probably play the Boom Grenade from the top using Core, and then letting the Arsenal go. And send whatever, and hopefully find something else from the top again. And I don't know. Yeah, there we go. And then no blocks. Going to 2. Yeah. Vanishing. Oh, there's the heist. Getting the silver. Alright, still a nail biter. If he can, yeah. This is just gonna take a card. There we go. And the next card is gonna take. Would maybe take 2 cards, but there's sink below an Arsenal. Oh, you found another one. Oh boy. Yeah. So, thinking about the crank, I guess. He's not cranking it. That's fine. Posting this. And here's the sink. Tommaso doesn't like his, and then Gun just comes in for 1. Yeah, the sink below saves the day here. Would have taken 2 cards from Tommaso. Obviously, that would have been a lot better. So we're going into the end game. The very late end game. It's turn 9 usually, and here we go. We have an attack reaction. That's game over. Okay. So yeah, I think there was like a couple spots Anton could have done things a little bit differently. Not much, but it's a tough game. It's a very hard matchup, and Tommaso had some very good draws and also like played it super well. So there was, I think, not much. I mean, I'm not a Slippy player, but that was pretty close to perfectly navigated in my mind. Okay, that's it. See ya.